Okay, let's dive in. Now, I know a lot of you come at the world from a physics-first perspective, and that's fantastic. Physics explains the how of the universe incredibly well. But today, we're going to dig a little deeper. We're going to ask the questions that physics kind of has to take for granted. Questions like, why can things change at all? What does it even mean for something to be?
So let's start with something that seems almost ridiculously simple. What is change? I mean, really think about it. When something changes, it's not like the old thing just disappears and a new one pops into existence out of thin air. Something persists, but something is also new. So how do we account for that? How do we explain both the continuity and the novelty?
And this right here, this is the heart of the puzzle. A block of marble has the potential to become a statue. After the sculptor is done, it actually is a statue. And this isn't just playing with words. This describes a real transition happening in the world. It's a move from what could be to what is.
Look, we're not trying to replace science here. We're digging underneath it. Physics gives you the laws of motion, the behavior of particles. That's the how. Metaphysics asks, what has to be true about reality itself for things like motion and matter to even be possible? Think of it this way. Metaphysics is trying to understand the fundamental operating system that allows the software of physics to run in the first place.
So, before we can really get to Thomas Aquinas, we have to talk about his teacher, in a sense, Aristotle. Aquinas inherited this incredibly powerful set of conceptual tools from him, and these are basically the building blocks for analyzing reality at its most fundamental level. First up is potency, or potentiality. Now, this is really important. Potency is not just nothing. It's a real capacity that exists within a thing. A seed has the real potential to become a tree. And for the materialists in the room, I want you to key in on this. This isn't some spooky, mystical idea. This potential is grounded in the actual physical stuff of the thing.
And Aquinas himself uses this fantastic analogy. He says the statue is potentially in the block of marble, even before the sculptor touches it. Now, it's not actually there, of course, but the stone has a real capacity to become it in a way that, say, a bucket of water just doesn't. That potential is a real feature of the stone itself.
And on the flip side of potency, you have act, or actuality. This is pretty straightforward. It's what a thing is right now. It's the fulfillment of a potential. It's when the marble is no longer just potentially a statue, but it actually is one. Act is being here and now.
Now here is the absolute crucial takeaway from Aristotle. Nothing can pull itself up by its own bootstraps, so to speak. Nothing goes from potential to actual on its own. It has to be actualized by something that is already in a state of act. Think about it. A cold candle has the potential to be lit, but it needs a lit match, something that is actually hot to make that happen. You cannot give what you do not have. This is what it means when we say that act is prior to potency. All right, so with Aristotle's concepts of act and potency in our back pocket, let's look at Aquinas' masterstroke. He takes this framework and applies it to the most fundamental question of all, the question of existence itself. I want you to really think about this for a second. Is the idea of a thing, its definition, its blueprint, the same as the thing itself actually existing in the world? Is the definition of human the same thing as you sitting right there? A concrete, flesh and blood person. Aquinas calls this blueprint the essence. It's the whatness of a thing. It's what means it the kind of thing it is. We can all grasp the essence of a unicorn, right? It's a horse with a horn. We know what it is, even though none of them actually exist. But existence, what Aquinas calls isse, is something totally different. And this is the key. Existence isn't a property on a list, like being white or being heavy. For Aquinas, existence is the very act of being. It's the act that takes a blueprint, an essence, and makes it real. And the implication here is absolutely massive. In everything we see around us, every created thing, its essence, its whatness, is really distinct from its existence, its isness. The blueprint doesn't contain its own reality. And if a thing's essence doesn't guarantee its own existence, then its existence must be something it receives from an outside source. Its essence is in potency to the act of existing. And logically, that chain of received existence has to trace back to something that doesn't receive being, but just is being, a being whose essence is to exist. Okay, so what does this distinction do? Well, it gives us a whole new architecture for reality. It's not just a flat plane of random stuff. It's a structured, hierarchical reality. This leads to the idea of participation. Things don't own their existence like a possession. They participate in being. Think about a red-hot poker. It's not fire itself, right? It just participates in the heat of the fire. If you take it out of the fire, it cools down. In the same way, Aquinas says created things don't be on their own. They share in or participate in the act of being from a source that is being itself. And Aquinas says it right here. Parents, for instance, are a cause of their child, for sure. They provide the humanness, the essence, but they can't provide the ultimate isness. That fundamental act of existing, Aquinas argues, must be an effect that comes directly from the first cause, from being itself. But this raises a classic problem. If we all share one single essence, humanity, then what makes us all different individuals? Why are we just one giant human blob? How do you get a multitude of individuals out of one universal nature?
Aquinas' answer is surprisingly, well, material. He says the principle of individuation for physical things is matter, but not just matter in general. It's what he calls signet matter. This specific chunk of matter, right here, right now, with these dimensions.
So the universal essence of human involves flesh and bone in general. But what makes you, you, and not someone else, is that your humanity is realized in this particular body, these particular bones, and this particular flesh. So, for my materialist friends, notice how important matter is in this system. It's not just passive gunk. It's the very thing that makes you a unique individual.
And this brings us to another key pair, substance and accidents. The substance is the core thing itself that exists, Socrates. Accidents are the properties that the substance has, his height, his weight, whether he's sitting or standing. Socrates can learn to play the flute or get a tan, and those accidents change, but he's still the same substance. He's still Socrates. So if we want to explain how any concrete thing comes to be, like our statue, Aquinas, following Aristotle, says you need a whole team of causes working together. It all starts with the final cause, the why. The goal is to have a beautiful statue. That goal directs the formal cause, the blueprint or idea in the sculptor's mind. The sculptor himself is the efficient cause, the who that does the work. And he works on the material cause, the stuff, the marble. You need all four to get a complete explanation.
Okay, so let's pull all these threads together. You might be thinking, this is a neat historical exercise, but what does any of this have to do with the real world, the world of quarks and quantum fields?
Well, what this framework gives us is an incredibly rich, layered way to understand any finite thing. It shows us that nothing is just a simple brute fact. Any object in the world, a rock, a plant, you, is a complex composition of these principles: potential and actuality, a blueprint and the act of being, a core identity and its changing properties, the stuff it's made of, and the structure that makes it what it is.
So, I'll leave you with this question. Science is absolutely brilliant at explaining how one state of affairs changes into another, how an acorn, given the right conditions, becomes an oak tree. But metaphysics is asking the prior question. Why do we live in a universe of acorns and oaks at all? A universe of potential and act. In that way, metaphysics doesn't compete with science. It seeks to provide the very foundation that makes the questions of science even possible to ask. It's the grammar of reality. And that's something to think about.